Now, we all know that DNA testing has come a very long way. From the first time it was ever used to solve the Narborough murders, which we've had an episode on, to the first time it was used here in the U.S., which is what we are about to get into on this episode. All right, so you remember the episode we did with the Narborough murders, right?
Yep.
Where the Alec Jeffries came up with the DNA profiling testing to be the first time ever used to convict a person on a big crime.
Yeah,
which
changed
was
the world.
Yeah, and it was used to solve a pair of cold case murders that happened in England. At the same time that year that Colin Pitchfork was being convicted back in 1987, Alec Jeffries' methods were also just about to be used to convict somebody here in the U.S. for another criminal act. And it would have become the first time that DNA profiling was used ever in the United States to do the same thing. It was May 9th, 1986. A woman in Orange County, Florida, is surprised when there's a stranger that breaks into her home and then rapes her at knife point.
Damn.
Even though she was able to get a good look at this person's face, they didn't have like a lineup and things like that to be able to say, oh yeah, that was the person, okay? So there was no way of proving who the guy was. During the remainder of 1986, there would then be another 22 women sexually assaulted in a similar manner, where each time through an unlocked window or door, someone would break in and then rape them at knife point. And while authorities, did the best that they could, we all know, as we're the main topic of this episode, DNA just wasn't what it was today. Forensics weren't what it is
today.
They're
barely scratching the surface with it.
Right. In fact, during that time, the only statistical method that they had to identify somebody was through serology, which was an analysis of protein in the blood or other bodily fluids, such as like semen, saliva, stuff like that.
Right.
Which they did get off of that first.
The first victim?
The first victim. They got a semen sample off of that. But even with that, it was still like low because, you'd have to physically test a person to be able to know it was them.
Right.
And if they didn't have a suspected person at the time, right, then it wasn't going to work. Now, there was another scene that gave a little bit of hope because they had 2 fingerprints that were left on a window screen during it. But when they ran those fingerprints again, they came up short because this person probably hasn't been arrested yet or anything like that.
Not in the database.
So he wasn't in a database. So they didn't know.
Damn.
So at some point, things have to start falling in place, right? There's no way somebody could commit this that many freaking times and not eventually get caught, you would think, right?
Exactly.
There's just too much evidence to
at
be
this
left
point
behind.
He's 23, 24 in.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Ashton, he was an assistant attorney for the state of Florida, and he happened to saw in a magazine the advertisement for using DNA testing to do paternity tests. So he thought if it could work to prove somebody is the father or not of a child, why can't we use that also to try and figure out who our perpetrator is?
You're the father of this crime.
Yeah, you the father of this crime, motherfucker. In March of 1987, a woman called the police to report a prowler in the neighborhood. Police show up, they arrest this guy, and they identify him as Tommy Lee Andrews. So with Tommy Lee Andrews, they used serology tests on the semen sample, and they discovered that it was a match, right?
Gotcha.
They also did the test on the fingerprints, found out it was a match. For the final nail in the coffin, Jeff Ashton also went and ran the idea of using the Alec Jeffries, DNA testing. To add more fuel to the fire, right?
Just to have more meat in the potatoes to take to the prosecution.
Basically. So Jeff Ashton then goes and he talks to another state attorney by the name of Tim Berry and runs the idea by him. So of course they pursue it, right? Because why not? You already got this, and this. Why not add the rest?
Right.
And I didn't look it up, but I was kind of curious to see if maybe at some point they went back to that first victim now that they kind of had an idea that this was the guy and say, is this the person? Like maybe do a lineup with her or something.
Possibly.
Because
wouldn't see why not.
I didn't read that anywhere. So I'm kind of curious because I mean, even if they would have done all that, I don't even see why they would have needed to do the rest of this with the DNA testing. But it is kind of nice to see that they.
At this point, they
Thinking
probably was
outside
just
the
like,
box.
we know it's him, but let's see how this works.
Yeah.
So they were testing it out.
And of course, because this is so new, it's still in its infancy stage. Andrew's defense, they tried to argue against it.
Of course.
Right?
It's not accurate. We don't know if it's real, all that.
They wanted it to get excluded on the basis that DNA testing was unproven at the time and the fact that there was only one company at the time that was doing these tests, right? It was a company called Life Codes Corporation out of New York. And their argument was that not only was that the only company that did it, but they were purposely trying to market these tests to be done to boost their revenue.
So they could get an exclusive contract and do every case and make more money.
So, but there was enough independent like DNA experts that came out and said that in order for Andrews to randomly match another person's DNA, it would be 1 in 10 billion. And because it was such a rarity that would happen, the judge allowed the test to be submitted as evidence. So obviously that did not fall in his favor. So on November of 1987, Tommy Lee Andrews was convicted of rape, and he was given a 22-year sentence with other trials that followed that led to the two convictions, and then he was also added another 100 years behind bars based on all of those convictions.
So total, he was convicted for 100 years or 124 years?
Like 122 years is what his total conviction time was. Now, here's the fucked up part, though, and this is where our justice system yet again failed us. After being originally convicted for 2 rapes and another 22 sexual assaults and being given 100 years, he only served 25 years.
Yeah, I read that.
And to me, I don't know, man. To me, that's fucked up. If you're going to commit crimes like that, you need to you're an animal. Just stay behind bars.
Yeah. Yeah. And did they ever figure out why he did what he did?
I saw no kind of motivations.
You know what's crazy? It wasn't a lot of information out on him when I was trying to do my research as well. It was just like a couple of articles, some of those newspaper articles that you got to pay for and all that crap. But I did come across where they said there was a psych eval done on him, and the psychiatrist was saying that he suffers from like multiple person disorder and pedophilia disorder. And he claims he don't suffer from any type of sicknesses and that he's never taken any medicine his entire life.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Okay.
So that's kind of like, whose word do you take for that? Something's wrong with you to do what you did 20 some odd times, you know?
Now, because I think he was like around the age of 22 or 24 years old when he started doing
He's
this.
a young buck.
If he's never committed any other crimes in his entire life prior to that, then I could understand there being some question of, okay, well, what happened? What clicked? Right?
Yeah.
I didn't take the time to go and look and see if he had any kind of prior record, anything like that.
I couldn't find anything, but
no.
Yeah.
So you either.
I tried.
So I'd be curious to go back and look at that at some point just to see, like,
his criminal history.
Yeah, did he have something else that
he probably was one of those fly under the radar type, killing rats and dogs and cats in the neighborhood, and then, you know, the switch flipped, and yeah, he went on to worser things and crimes. Yeah. But what was interesting that I found is one of his victims, she wasn't able to go to one of the court hearings. So she had a list of questions that she wanted to ask him. And upon his release in August of 2021, she was able to send her questions via text message to the reporter. and the reporter that was interviewing him asked him the questions. So the first question she wanted to know, she said she wanted to know why he never got psychiatric help, and he denied it his whole time in prison, and why he never showed any remorse. His response was, "That won't happen." Yeah.
See, that
So
just
you can
sounds
see
like
the
a
character,
cold
like,
motherfucker. Was it 2021 or 2012? I thought it was 2012 he got released.
No, it was 2021.
Was it?
Yeah.
Another thing that I found interesting was that that whole 25 years that he did serve, it wasn't all in a prison either. He served some of that in like an institute designed for violent sexual offenders, like rapists and stuff like that. So even then, he didn't have like the full like punishment I think he could have gotten.
Or no, I'll take that back. I'm mistaken. He wasn't released in 2021. That's when they did the interview.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So maybe it was 2012. I saw a date, and for some reason the year 2012 pops into mind. So I don't know if maybe he got released then or not, but
yes. So then after they asked him that question, they actually played a voice recording of the woman that she created to send to him. So she said, I'd like to tell Mr. Andrews, we're about the same age when all of this happened. And the thought through the years, I think it's time you get the help you need at the facility that you're going to and get right with God and ask for forgiveness. Andrews stated, I want to disclose something I never disclosed over 25 years. He said, we went to the same school together, him and the lady who sent the messages. So they went to the same junior high school. He was in the 9th grade and she was in the 8th grade at the time. Because, back in the days, junior high school was different.
Right.
And so I guess he was saying it was kind of a shock to him because the woman states she doesn't remember him and she never met him at all. But he came out to say, I don't know why he would want to say that after all those years. What difference does it make? You did the crime. It is what it is. But
I mean, how many times do you go to school with somebody and you just don't know them, though? So that's possible. You don't know who they are, or you see so many faces on a daily basis. You're not going to remember every single one. So,
yeah.
But for him to remember her, maybe that could have added some motive as to why he did it, too.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe he was like, oh, she didn't want to fuck with me when back in school. All right, you going to fuck with me now. True. See, like maybe that's why he didn't disclose it, because maybe his lawyer was like, nah, that might not look good.
Maybe not. But for some reason,
lawyers was smart, boy.
Right. But for some reason, he's stating that he's innocent. Obviously, most of them do. They rarely ever come out and say that they did it. But yeah, so he's stating that he's innocent. And when asked, does he think that he'll die in that, because he's still in that facility, that mental health facility. So after his sentencing, he left jail or prison and went to that mental health facility, and he has to stay there. Because, again, his psych eval, per the psychiatrist, states that, he has these disorders, which he claims is a lie. So when they asked him, does he think that he'll ever get out of that facility, he stated, finally in his life, the truth. He said, nope, I'm going to die here.
So you said it yourself that most people don't admit when they do something wrong. However, the next episode that we're going to talk about is going to be someone who committed the most serial killer murders in U.S. history. His name is Samuel Little, and that's going to be for our next episode. Until next time, subscribe, share, and show you care.